Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell us about your association with TIH at IIT Tirupati?
Yeah, so I am basically from National Institute of Geoinformatics Science and Technology at Hyderabad, and we are basically working in the field of like geospatial data collection, processing, mapping, and surveying sort of areas which comes under the geospatial. And the IIT Tirupati TIH is focusing on the positioning and precision technologies which covers all these application areas when it comes to in terms of technology applications. So that is the main point of association for us. So we are developing a dedicated center for the geospatial research and innovation. And as part of developing that center, we had got associated with TIH.
There were three initiatives launched today. Can you tell about them?
Yeah, there were three initiatives. One was Geospatial Innovation Hub. So the idea is basically to uh, work upon this research and innovation theme and create a sort of hub which can help the even other institutes and entities who are working towards the geospatial. Then there is a call for the CORS based research and the innovation activities. So Survey of India has established the CORS network, and this position infrastructure is actually it is very critical if it can be exploited for use in different areas. And right now, primarily it is being used for carrying out the mapping activities, and we wanted more and more people to actually make use of this data and develop the solutions or different applications out of it. So that was the second announcement, and there was the third announcement, which was basically geospatial information accelerator actually. So it's like when it comes to geospatial research per se, the in addition to the area specific or the domain specific research activities, it is very important to really include the startups at the ground level in really solving the problems where location based information can really it can be unlocked and it can help in improving the existing services and all. So I think this is a very good effort to achieve those objectives. And right now, there are three sectors which are being targeted. So hopefully, we'll be able to see very good use cases out of it and very good solutions.
For the startup ecosystem, can you share a couple of problem statements that they can look forward to solve?
See, out of this particular GIA program also, we had done extensive consultations with different stakeholders prior to basically conceiving this program. So a lot of problem statements are there in these three sectors, and those problem statements are there from various perspectives. It's like there are existing users who are running different applications. They were not really getting the right kind of the particular kind of location data. So they have given some of the problem statements, which we have actually we have shortlisted many statements out of it, and we are focusing on some of them. Then there are stakeholder organizations who are primarily involved in making use of various services in this sector, and where location, like for example, crop insurance kind of activities there. So their location information plays a very important role. So from their perspective also, we have got the problem statement. So it's a very good compilation of problem statements. It's already there as part of this program under three sectors. So it's like in the livelihood, you can how really you can provide the right kind of location information and make the discernible impact on the lives of the general people. So that way, I hope in addition to these statements, maybe during the course of these activities, we'll definitely come across some more and interesting, I think, problem statements which we might be taking for a long-term research purpose also.
As you're from Survey of India and this seminar is about underwater navigation, how much of the sea under ocean land have been mapped?
See, under ocean, like land mapping, like primarily it is called hydrographic surveying and mapping. So in India, like we really don't do this underwater mapping in the coastal areas or in the riverine areas as our mandated activity. It is with the National Hydrographic Organization. But as part of, let's say, there are certain projects at times we come across this kind of underwater mapping kind of requirement. Like we did one of the like riverine bathymetry mapping work under National Hydrology Project in some of the river courses in country. So it comes as a package because at times when we take up the high resolution data capturing for these projects, it includes like land data as well as the bathymetry data. So in that, as part of those projects, we have done like bathymetric mapping and all. Otherwise, if you see from the mandate perspective, there is an Inland Waterways Authority in India which does like most of the riverine or inland bathymetry surveys. And for the coastal areas and all, it is primarily National Hydrographic Organization.
What gets you excited about the future?
See, I'm very excited, particularly with respect to the impactful use of the geospatial, because if I compare the kind of like unlocking we could do in terms of geospatial uses, it is very meager. It's very minimal actually. So if we see the evolved systems which are there in the other countries, and the kind of like a very systematic framework based approach they have adopted or they have evolved. So that is what excites me, because now even the policy directive is very focused, which was not the case 3-4 years back. So now there are a lot of opportunities in terms of the governance like execution, in terms of the institutional systems which needs revamping in line with this framework based approach, and this very dynamic innovation ecosystem which can actually help us in leapfrogging in implementing these frameworks. So that is really exciting.
From the policymaker's standpoint, how do you think is the environment in India now?
See, environment is very conducive. In fact, if I see geospatial, there are changes at the policy level which have happened after almost 150 years. So that way, these are very remarkable kind of policy changes. In fact, when we really deliberate at the international forums, the kind of geospatial policy liberation has happened in India. Many countries are looking up to like now how effectively we are really able to implement it and make use of all these data democratization kind of initiatives which we have taken. So that way, it's a completely different, I would say, time in comparison to the earlier times when things were more closed, they were restricted. A lot of regulation was there in terms of usage, handling, and even sharing of the data. So that way, it is a very encouraging time, and I am hopeful that we will see a lot of difference in terms of the output in future.
Data democratization is the highlight of the change.
Yeah, basically there were two aspects with respect to geospatial data. The first was like even the capturing of that high resolution data was regulated and restricted earlier, which has been liberalized. And then once that data has been created, and then how, like who can use that data, how to really make use of that high resolution data in particular, that was that was having a lot of procedures, a lot of formalities to be complied, and at times like all the people or all the stakeholders were not really getting the access of such data. So that way, that data democratization has really happened. Now, as per the policy in the country, any data can be handled by any Indian citizen or any Indian company, which is a great thing actually.
This question is from the end user or from regular folks. What things they might see changing after innovations in underwater navigation or geospatial innovations?
See, they will be finding a lot of changes in terms of the services which they get, in terms of in terms of the direct access as such. A general user is not interested. He's interested in the application.
Hmm.
Like you use the navigation services like vehicle navigation and all we use in our day-to-day life. So people want the direct users which actually makes their life convenient. So now all those things with this kind of innovation initiatives, definitely those kind of things would be possible. See, recently when there was a liberalization in the drone policy as such, now after that we have seen like lot of startups, they have come up with very good product in terms of drone equipment, in terms of different payloads and the sensors which they carry. Like even in the surveying and mapping field, there was not even a single hybrid kind of drone and all 4 or 5 years back. But after the policy implementation, now we are having so many companies with the product which is type certified from the Quality Council of India in terms of uses. That is amazing.
Wow. We all heavily depend on Google Maps. Do you think that is replaceable or something better alternatives can be indigenously made?
See, that depends. See, Google Maps is not a basically database having geospatial data only. It has very sound and robust technology infrastructure, which is at the core, which is basically the deep tech. And if we can actually create those kind of technology stacks, which are very important, in addition to the availability of the latest and updated data. So then definitely those things can be done. Like we have seen people coming up with those kind of solutions. Let's say there is a Map My India, Mappls is there. They have the app. They have very good database. It is being used extensively in many applications. So definitely, if the right kind of investment is there and the vision is there, the roadmap is there. So and you are really focused on developing the deep tech also in addition to the data collection, data sets and the data repositories and regular updations. So definitely it is possible to really have the solutions which people would like to use, and they will not mind having dependency on such applications. See the performance of all these applications and the ease of use. This is what user require. So that if you are delivering that, definitely it is possible.
In your role, in your capacity, throughout couple past years, what is something that has like fascinated you or mind blown? Okay, this startup is working on this, or this is another achievement we feel we have had.
See, basically, like I am from a surveying and mapping background, so for me, the most exciting thing is the high resolution data collection. I'm fascinated whenever there is any project, we see any data collection activity, we see where the latest technology and the latest equipment is being utilized, because that gives you the access to that kind of high quality, high resolution data. And it's a very I would say it's a very costly affair in general to collect those kind of high resolution data. So once you have that kind of source data captured, and then you really find it very fascinating to actually process it and develop different kind of products. So this is because my core basically expertise is from that area. So I really find it very interesting, because when we really talk about the data infrastructures and the deliveries which those data infrastructures can give, the core is the data and the high quality, the good integrity data, if that is there, which is very much possible with the kind of technologies and solutions available. But somehow you need to have the those kind of resources also to really conceptualize those kind of projects, develop applications, and really invest in those things. So that is exciting.
You mentioned high quality data and collection couple of times. The only way I know that Google does is to send a car with a 360-degree camera on all the streets of the world, and then they collect.
Right. So that is actually very high quality data, because those kind of like in a mobile platform, when you put that kind of censored equipment, that those kind of sensors you are putting. So it's like an integration of different kinds of sensor technologies like lidar, laser kind of technologies, and optical technologies. That itself is a very good source of collecting the 360-degree panoramic data, and they process it and they make use of it using different automated algorithms and all. So that is what is high quality data. In order to really do that capturing and processing, you need to invest on that. So we generally do that out of different projects which are basically worked out by different ministries for different sectors. So there is a need to actually expand that reach or the coverage of those kind of data collections.
What do you think about everybody has a cell phone? Every village, everybody has a cell phone. So if you develop a system and tell everybody to just do a 360-degree video wherever they are of their farm or their land or near forest, wherever it is, do you think we can
See,
use a constellation of that and make a data?
definitely that kind of information, if it is captured in this crowdsourced manner, definitely it can help you in developing different solutions and products. But when we really talk about the surveying profession, so we also have this kind of obligation to make sure that there is a certification or there is an assessment for all these kind of output data models which come out of this kind of processing with in respect of measurement accuracies, because that is something which is which makes that data set application to a wide ranging sectors. So for example, suppose any kind of cadastral kind of things you wanted to do, you will not be able to do those things with that kind of data. So you need a very different kind of measurement accuracies for that. You want to do anything with respect to urban planning. You want to do anything with respect to, let's say, taxation system, property taxation and all. These things will not be helpful. You need little like laser based sensors which are capturing it, so that when you are creating that model, it is having that measurement accuracy. So it will definitely serve a lot of applications. But if you wanted to cover, if you say it will serve all the applications, that may not be the correct thing. So definitely it will be helpful.
Yeah, because now we can GPS tag each photo or a video, and laser and everything also as the
See,
phones
there are
develop.
technology like NERF nowadays, so you can do AI based processing of
Yeah, exactly.
immediately. So definitely this will be useful. Like, it depends upon the application on which that particular product will be actually utilized. So there is no doubt about this fact that information capturing, the data capturing requires extensive, I think, involvement of people at the ground level, and this is a very challenging task. So we should make use of whatever ways we can do this kind of data capturing, because it definitely addresses the applications of a very large sectors. So I think whatever these ways, if we can create platforms and systems to really make use of these kind of data collections, we should do that.
A question at a personal level. In your personal experience, can you share a story or anecdote where a difficult challenge was there and how you overcame that?
Yeah, I had been I had been to Antarctica for doing a ground survey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when India was establishing its next station after the Maitri, that is in Lasman Hills, so we had gone there to do the ground survey for that, and this was really very interesting because we had really not worked before that in any such area where even the basic position or the basic reference of that area is not existing. So, and it was also having the water and land boundary also. So that way you had to establish even the basic mean sea level, that zero level also, to start doing the vertical measurements. You had to establish the reference even to do the horizontal measurements. That was amazing. So that is something like in your because these kind of references and these things were always there in the country, like it is being maintained in last 150 years, and so So that was really challenging, and it took a lot of effort also, because it's very very interesting when you really face those kind of challenges and the conditions which are there, like all these high blizzards and all those challenges, the climate specific challenges, that they make your ground survey work really challenging. So it's like the basic survey, even to make a small road, the center line alignment and all, that becomes very challenging there. So that was really interesting experience. We had worked there for almost 3 months. So
3 months.
for creating all that basic surveying framework, so that all other construction activities and the establishment of the center and other activities can take place.
So you might have undergone through a lot of training
Yeah,
for
a lot
surviving
of
in those kind of conditions.
there are like there is a regular expedition goes to Antarctica from India. It's an Indian scientific expedition handled by Ministry of Earth Sciences. So they have full protocol of like anybody who goes as part of that expedition. So they have a full protocol of how different kinds of training which are given to every member. So that he can actually play that part as an expedition member in the Antarctica. So everybody goes through that. I had also gone through that.
You carry 3 months of food.
They carry full year food there. So
Full
it's
year.
a expedition. It's a regular activity. So like people stay there even in the winter. We were there in the summer because in the daytime only you can work. Otherwise, people stay there throughout the year, and the government of India provides all kinds of logistics. It's a very established process now.
No, but for somebody who has never thought of or seen Antarctica,
So for him, it is always challenging. Like I had also gone for the first time. So for me, all that challenge was there. Yes.
it is very dry and cold
Right.
and very windy.
Right.
So how was your first day there?
First day was very interesting, because this when we had gone there from Cape Town by ship, and up to Cape Town we had flown. So generally it was like summer was approaching, and even the sea surface was frozen. So we landed there some 18 miles before, because the sea surface was frozen to such a depth that even the ship was not able to move.
Oh,
So we had flown from there to the land part and did the basic recce and all. So first day when I had actually landed on the Antarctica with the leader and other people. So that was really very very interesting, because it was the first time you were landing, and it was cold, and moreover, and like in Antarctica even the sea depth is very very high. Like their coast is very very I would say very sharp. That gradient is very sharp.
Oh.
Yeah. So that way, and everything was frozen. It was looking like land only. And so that was really amazing. I had never seen those kind of things. We were doing like ice coring at different places just to see what is the thickness level and what kind of load bearing it can have. So then we can make use of time and in actually transferring the goods and all. So that was very interesting.
wow.
That is something we never do in the mainland.
And any places that you have found interesting in Indian subcontinent while doing a survey?
A lot of places, like sometimes like we were working once in the international border areas, like I used to work India-Pakistan border. So you have all very high sarkandas there, almost 10 feet, 12 feet.
Very high, what?
Sarkandas, those are big bushes.
Ah.
So you must have seen cane.
Ah, ah.
So this cane, they call it sarkanda. So cane, you can have those cane bushes, which are generally 10 to 12 feet. And it's very dense. And all along the border in different patches, that those kind of cane bushes are there. And you have to do the ground survey there. So, and you have all those wild pigs there, which is very dangerous. So that is challenging, and it's like, because you don't have roads and all there, though, so exactly zero line access. At times you are going by foot, going by boat, crossing all those sarkanda patches and all. So that is very interesting.
So do you need a army backup?
There, all security forces who are there They give us
Under
all
your
the support. Yes, yes.
Great,
We
great.
get all the support from them. Yeah.
For the startups, for the government agencies, for students, what is the overall message you want to give through this today's seminar?
See, the message is when we really do this kind of like hackathon, we have announced today for the CURS. So the objective is to basically, first of all, we need to do the outreach so that we can reach to all those people who really have the potential and the capability to really uh, get some innovative solutions out of it, right? So we wanted to do it as extensively as possible. So the point is like anybody has any suggestion also, let's say, and if they think like there are some of the problem statements which might not be covered as part of this, but they have those things in mind. So I think that kind of like feedback should also come to us so that we can actually improvise on this so that we can really we can narrow down all those the very potential application and the potential use cases, and maybe we can work out some other kind of challenges and some other initiatives to really address them in the long term. So that way I think it should be more interactive and we should get a lot of feedback also. People should not hesitate in doing that. And even in, let's say, in the process also, like whatever process we adopt for doing this outreach and extending this kind of support, if any suggestions and improvement are there based out of their experiences, particularly people who have gone to the growth stage and all. So I think that should be done on a I would say at a very high, basically on a very regular level. So that will definitely help us in learning and optimizing our approach also towards doing this outreach and involving these people in this kind of innovation.
How they can reach you? That's an amazing point you made. To
So
inviting
this is what,
ideas.
yeah. So see, that's why the host any call for that matter is hosted by either some incubators or some incubation hub. So actually, whenever these kind of calls are being floated, they should also come up in case they are not finding something like out of the call immediately of use for them, but they can always come approach them with the inputs and the ideas. Because when we do the planning for different calls and we wanted to target different sectors, these kind of inputs are very, very important. For that purpose, at times we try to like keep different industry representative and other people also as part of deliberations. But if it can, these additional inputs, if they can come from directly from these kind of potential, will be very, very
Is
helpful.
there a particular email ID, LinkedIn, or website that people can go to?
Yeah, people can actually like, for example, like our COE hub is there. So NIGST, he's having a mail ID and all. They can approach. I'm also there in LinkedIn. They can approach the respective TIH. Like their web pages are there. So like our web page, we are developing that web page will be there. So these are all interfaces. Actually, the purpose of all these interfaces is to get ideas and inputs, because this will be very, very helpful actually in optimizing this strategy.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Any final words or anything else you want to share?
No, it's fine. I think I'll be very happy like more and more people if we can get connected with them and help them in actually creating all those things which they wanted to do in technology development.